Hello and welcome to Your Money, Their Hands. And this week we're at M&G to talk to Stuart Rhodes. He's the manager of the M&G Global Dividend Fund. First of all, Stuart, welcome. It is surely income the most hotly chased investment story. So where do you as a professional start to secure the best income?
Well, I think the best income opportunities exist from all around the globe. So when you think about income investing and why it works, it's really about investing in opportunities where the income can grow. So we're looking to invest in companies where they have great opportunities for that dividend stream to keep growing and growing over time. And you get wonderful capital discipline within companies able to do that. Now, a lot of those opportunities at the moment exist overseas. So I think the US is a fantastic fishing pool for us. There's a huge amount of opportunity there, a huge amount of businesses, and too many people are confusing what's going on within the US at the moment with actually the health of a lot of their corporates. And I would argue if you remove the banks from that, actually there's some wonderful business models with assets all around the world and who generate profits all around the world and are benefiting from the themes which we hear about all the time in Brazil and China and India. And these types of companies, are there and have been there for 30, 40 years, and you're getting opportunities to invest in these companies now with decent dividend yields, and you're pretty much guaranteed that those dividends are going to increase.
So having identified, and you've got nearly 40% of your portfolio actually in the US, what are the sectors that attract you at the moment? Because looking at your top 10 holdings, there's quite a broad mix of companies there, aren't there?
Yeah, no.
Johnson & Johnson I saw as one, isn't it?
Johnson & Johnson is one of the reasons, actually. It's great you mentioned that. Johnson & Johnson, one of the reasons why the fund exists. Met the CFO of Johnson & Johnson about 2 years ago, and he told us that the first thing he does every single year with all the money that comes into the firm is increase the dividend, because he thinks that discipline makes them a better company. It stops them wasting money elsewhere. So that's a wonderful example of a company that's paid rising dividends every single year for 44 years in a row, which is a quite staggering number. So once you move globally and once you start to get invested in the US and in Brazil and Australia, these types of businesses, you can go across many sectors. So you're not reliant on a certain sector. In the UK, very much, you're reliant on 6 sort of core companies, and that's the 2 oil majors.
I'm not the greatest fan of the UK. I mean, looking at your portfolio structure in terms of weighting, what is it, 5-6% or so?
Yeah, it's about 6-7%. I love living here. I think, I love the UK, but I must admit it's difficult to paint a picture. Paint a picture on why the UK is the place to put your money over the next 15 years. There's lots of things happening around the world, of which the UK is a very small portion. And I think people need to open up their mindset slightly, and there's still some wonderful dividend discipline that exists in all of the countries around the world, and there really shouldn't be any barrier for you to look into investing in those businesses, because it's going to make you money and build wealth for you over the long run.
Looking at when you have to sell a company, I mean, is there a point at which you think, well, I've had my gain out of this? Is there a particular warning signal for an income seeker that you think, oh, this is getting toppy or it's had its best?
Yeah, well, I think the key thing when income investing is to look at the yield last, actually. So people get things thrown at them in the office, literally downstairs, if they come up and say, you should look at this company, it's a 7% yield, it looks cheap, it's a good place to invest. That's the last thing you should look at. First of all, you look at the company, understand it, understand why it makes money, and understand why it can make money going forward, and then why it can grow going forward. Once you've got your answers to those questions, you see how far up the yield curve you can go. And that very much sort of stops you from investing in those traps where you think you've got a 9% yield and suddenly it's not there next year, and the capital will destroy itself because there's nothing to hold it up anymore. So I think it's very important to start first and understand why your dividend can grow, and then see how far up the yield curve you can go. And as I said, I was talking.
Do you set yourself a ceiling, though?
Well, I mean, I want a company to at least pay a meaningful dividend, so sort of 2-3% is the lower end. But at the moment, that's not a problem. We have companies that are yielding 5-5.5%. We have an Australian hearing aid manufacturer at the moment, wonderful position in its industry, has 70% market share for people with very serious trauma problems and that need hearing aids. That market's growing at 20% a year. It's grown its dividend at 19% this year, 19%, and it's yielding over 5%. And those are the types of investments you can really get access to if you broaden up your mindset and think about where can I invest internationally.
So it's thinking global.
Really thinking global.
Think local.
Understand where your companies are and why they can grow. Geographic growth is the best form of growth because it's the easiest form of growth. If you can grow because populations are growing, you just have to do the basics. Make sure, if you're manufacturing, make sure your manufacturing equipment's right. Make sure you don't put too much money in it. Make sure it's efficient and it can compete with your global peers. But really, if your end market's growing, then it's doing most of your job for you. And really, that's going to be the big tailwind for investment. And in developed, economies, for example, in the UK or in the US, for example, you really need to be invested in the companies which have positions around the world, because they're the ones over the next 10, 15 years that are going to grow and create wealth for you.
Brilliant. Stuart, thank you very much.
Thanks
indeed.
a lot.
Stuart Rhodes there, M&G's manager of the Global Dividend Fund. And that's it for this week. But don't forget to keep up to date with all the latest news, views, and of course, analysis online and in the Saturday and Sunday papers. Thank you for watching, and please do join us again next time.